Okay, so today I'm speaking about forgiveness. Forgiveness, we all know, is something that is a powerful gift from God. If we do not use that forgiveness, we weaken our own spirit and our connection to God. It's a form of power granted to us by God. He gives us the power of forgiveness so we can represent His character by expressing a loving spirit and by showing Him how much we appreciate Him. And, you know, when we show forgiveness to others, we mirror God's character. Period. No matter what the situation is, if it's a friend outside for kids in grade school, if it's a friend outside on the park, and the friend comes up to you, and they're like, I want to get on those monkey bars. And they push you off. If you get up and you punch them out, and you're like, who are you pushing? You're not mirroring God. You are mirroring them. You are reciprocating their behavior. But if you get up and you're like, you know what? That's okay. You hit me? I'm just going to do what God would do. I would operate in what fashion God would operate in. I will become God's mirror, God's child.
Like last time when you explained that customer when you were on the phone?
Yes.
You didn't hurt.
I used the fruits of my spirit because he was rude to me. I was his customer. I walked in the store. He was rude to me. I could have been rude back. I felt offended, completely offended. But because I like to think that I used wisdom and I wasn't quick to anger. A lot of the times in the Bible and many places in the Bible it says those who are quick to anger are fools because they are giving their power over to the person who is angering them, over to the person who is offending them, instead of using the power of God. Yes.
So it's sort of like the same, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say that out. So
Exactly.
it's sort of like if you don't have anything,
No, it's keep going with that thought. I like it.
if you don't like to be, if you like to be treated nicely, then treat other people the way you want to be treated.
I love that. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And I love that exactly the same way. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. And if somebody is going to treat you bad, if you don't want to be treated even worse, then leave it alone. Because once they come up to you and they start picking at you and you start picking at them, you start stirring up even more conflict, even more strife. They become unpredictable because they're already coming up to you to create a conflict. And then when you're like, yep, I'm going to create the conflict back. There's many ways. I'm going to get more into that, but there's many ways in how to associate yourself with conflict. It's funny because I had this topic because of so many throughout the whole entire week, and also myself as well. I was in church last week, and there was something that I experienced that made me feel like I need to forgive this pastor. And then there was something that happened at church, at Bible study yesterday, the Bible study I went to go check out, and they actually commented on conflict. So I was like, I'm going to throw both of them together. Now, in John chapter 8, verse 7, Jesus says, those who are free of sin, cast the first stone. Those who are free of sin. That means those who have no sin, then go ahead and judge other people. If you have done nothing wrong and you are completely innocent, then go ahead and you can nail that person to the cross, so to speak. You can throw as many stones as you want. Just like you said, Chandler, a few weeks ago in class, you said, you know, lots of people sin every day. That point was so prevalent to today's class because we all sin. None of us are completely innocent. But in John chapter 8, just in case you guys aren't familiar with that parable, hold on one second, just in case you guys aren't familiar with that parable, what Jesus was doing was he was at the synagogue. So the synagogue is like a church or a temple. And he was teaching people. And back in those days, how Jesus would teach is by writing in the sand. They didn't really have the pen and the paper and stuff. I think they probably had feather and ink. But so there was like sand all around. So he was writing in the sand with a stick and teaching the people. All of a sudden the Pharisees, those are like the priests, those are the law keepers of the Bible, of God's word, so to speak. They came in and they brought this woman to Jesus, and they're like, yo, Jesus, seriously? This woman just got caught red-handed committing adultery. That means cheating on her husband. And what happened was, they were like, what are you going to do, Jesus? Because these people really didn't like Jesus anyway. The Pharisees were constantly questioning whether Jesus was real, whether he was all that in a bag of chips. Well, what happened was, Jesus kept on writing like he didn't even know they were there. And then they said, Jesus, what are you going to do? Because Moses said, your forefather, the person who wrote in the Bible before you were even created, the person who wrote the commandments, Moses said, you have to stone this woman to death. That means pick up stones and throw them at her till she's dead.
That's going to take a long time.
It's going to take a long time, exactly. But imagine how many stones they're going to throw. And if it's going to take a long time, some people might even pick up a heavy one and throw it on her head and kill her immediately. Right? So this is what we're saying. So Jesus was the Prince of Peace. He was the one who believed in peace. He came to tell people to bring peace to their hearts, have forgiveness. So he's still writing in the sand like he don't even hear them. So finally he gets up and he looks at them and he says, okay, if you are free of sin, you cast the first stone. And he went back down to doing his writing and his teaching and didn't even pay any more attention to those Pharisees. So they all looked at him, they looked around, from the oldest one to the youngest person around in that area of the synagogue right there. Each one of them disappeared one by one because every single one of them knew they were not free of sin. Till Jesus was left alone with the woman. And he looked up and he said to her, all your accusers are gone? No one is here? She says, no, sir, they're all gone. He said, go on about your way and sin no more. Now, who's to say that she was not going to sin again? Obviously, again, we all sin and everything. But the next time she committed adultery, if she ever did, we don't know if she did, but if she did, she would think twice about it because they almost killed her. She was saved by the Prince of Peace, by forgiveness, and by him showing everyone else, you're not innocent. Have forgiveness, do not judge. Yes, Cassidy?
What do you have to do to sin? What do you have to do to sin?
To sin. To sin means you're doing anything that God would not like.
What is the rule on forgiveness?
There is no rule.
Because, like, when you forgive a person, I know Jesus said, turn the other cheek and forgive times 10, over and over again.
Forgiveness.
70.
Right, to your sister, your brother, but forgiveness is a gift. So forgiveness, when someone does something to you, you forgive as you would like to be forgiven. As long as you live, there is no rule to forgiveness.
What if this person is close to you?
And they do something to you over and over.
Continuously.
What you do is you go to them one-on-one.
Yourself?
No, you go to them one-on-one, which I'm going to get further into down here. You go to them one-on-one, and you speak to them one-on-one, and you let them know in quiet communication with the two of you, this is what you've done. And if they rile up, they're like, oh, well, you did this to me. Who do you think you are coming and confronting me? What did you do to me? You say, okay, you know what? Unless we can have a civil conversation, I think that I'm not getting through to you, so I'm just going to walk away. If I can stand here and we can have a civilized conversation, then let's calm down a little bit. And if they're like, who do you think you are?
It's a passive-aggressive conversation, or they're speaking.
All conflicts are. Right, but you always have to go one-on-one with that person. And if that does not work, then you go to someone else and you bring in a third party. And if that third party does not work, then you have to say to yourself, I cut my losses until that person comes to me. But you don't say, I'm not going to break bread with them. You don't say that. And you don't. But when you have the opportunity to show forgiveness, you do it. Especially if you're not free of sin. And especially if you're looking for favor from God at the moment.
Okay.
100%. Always, always, always. And, you know, so not to personalize it myself onto you, but there's a situation that I'm
You're
saying.
familiar with, so I
Right.
understand, okay.
Okay, so James chapter 4, verse 11. Okay? James says, do not judge at all. And we did a whole class on this before called pick a speck out of your own eye. So Jesus always says there's a speck in everyone's eye. Some people have a log in their eye and they can't see past that huge log. Meanwhile, they're trying to pick the speck out of someone else's eye and say, look what they did, look what they did. Meanwhile, they got a huge log they got to take out of their own eye. So in James chapter 4, he says, take the speck out of your own eye before you pick the speck out of someone else's eye. Always look at your own, yourself, how you're contributing to this in order for you to bring peace to the conflict. Okay, so there's lots of things that create emotions that will prevent us from forgiving. Who here has been hurt so many times over and over again? Even in your situation, you've been hurt over and over again. This person doesn't even have enough sense to realize their own folly, their own foolishness. And they keep coming back at you and they keep hurting. And you just want to be like, yo, stay away from me. Get away from me. Seriously, have enough sense to get yourself together. Then, we are expected to forgive them. We are expected to bend over backwards and be kind to this person who does not deserve our forgiveness. They don't deserve our forgiveness. They really don't. But we are not perfect. So what happens is we give them this gift of forgiveness because we're going to need something back one day as well. It's an investment to ourselves. It's not giving them something that they don't deserve. It's an investment. So it's like, you know what? I'm not going to throw my jewels to swine. But this is not a jewel per se. This is a free gift that I have. So if I give it to you, I'm not losing anything. It's not like I'm giving you $1,000 where I need to pay my own mortgage or something of this nature. So I'm giving you something that's free. And if I give it to you, I'm going to gain all that much more glory from God. It's not like we're losing anything. So what we say is, you know what? I'm going to give you this gift of forgiveness. Only because I know God's going to get me back.
But forgiveness, some people told me, and I don't agree, that to forgive means you forget. And I don't think you have to forget because some things happen to you that are lessons. You recognize that you let that person or whatever they did go, but you don't. To me, you don't have to be friends with them. You don't have to have them in your lives. You just said, well, you know what? You're a bigger person. You walk away. But that doesn't mean that. To me, it doesn't mean that you.
That's not forgiveness.
That's what I'm confused.
Forgiveness is called pure heart. It is called erasing all of the pain.
Yeah, but
Forgiveness.
that's hard though. Like,
That's
forget.
real forgiveness.
It's only as hard as you make it. I have been.
Well, you can't forget. You're not going to forget it. You can't.
You know what? I have been molested, and I have forgiven the person who has laid their hands on me.
But you still remember.
Too much. No. I'm not talking about remembering and forgetting. I remember, but not with pain and anger. I don't say to myself, that person did this, I hate them. I say, you know what? I forgive them. I lift their name up in prayer because what did they go through as a child to have them to put their hands on me? And I don't open up to people freely and say, oh, I was molested. I think this is the first time I've said it in many years in public. I don't think I've ever said it, but I say it to clients on the phone who have been through that. And I freely admit it to clients on the phone only because I let them know that that is one thing that makes them angry. It's the one thing that makes them resentful. And they are now allowing that molestation to have a hindrance on their personal growth. And so I look at that and I'm like, when I think about being molested, I say to God, now, I say, God, in a weird way, thank you, because now I can help all these other people who are molested get past it. So if I was a sheep that was slaughtered at that moment to get past that, then I am there to shepherd other people. And so I'm not ashamed of it. And it wasn't like, oh, I was penetrated or the person had sex with me. It was nothing like that. I was touched. I was fondled. But at the same time, I'm able to help people who were penetrated or people who were almost penetrated and people who were just fondled. I'm able to help at all spectrums because I have the experience. But I do not remember that person with any sorrow, with any hate. And so when we look at what people have done to us in our past, we have to say, that person did it because they were hurt. Hurt people. And that's where we have to look at. When this person hurt you, they were hurt. And we have to look at everything as what happened to their psyche when they were children. What did they go through when they were children? Who didn't love them? Or who confessed to loving them but did not express the love completely and fully? I'm so fortunate. I have a mother that carries my book around in her purse and whips that bad boy out every time to brag about me. The newspaper I write for, she's always talking to people about it. My mother is one of my strongest, staunch supporters, and I'm so fortunate to have her. Like I said, you guys' relationship there reminds me of that. You remind me a lot of Mommy with your girls, and the two of you as well. And so when I'm forward, when I think about my mom, you know, I was 17 when I had my daughter. You're 17 now. So when I look at that and I see you chilling with your mom coming to a community center so you can just relax and have a little, and she knows you well, but she's like, who are you talking about? No, but this is what I'm saying. So when it comes to forgiveness, we have to, and I wasn't planning today to talk about my things that I experienced. Sometimes they just come out in order for us to give an example, because I'm not going to sit back here and say, oh, don't worry about it, someone hurt me, it's okay, let's pass. What I'm going to say is, you know what? God knows how difficult it is for us to forgive. God knows how difficult it was for me to forgive. I was eating my whole entire life away until I was 280 pounds after I had my daughter and my son. And I was eating why? Because of sorrow. Now I gained a few pounds because of happiness, right? What I'm saying is, I finally got over that pain, being molested, and I finally got over it, and the weight was gone. I wasn't angry any longer. I wasn't resentful any longer. And all of a sudden I started to feel more powerful, like I had more control over who I was. And I wasn't allowing people to make me feel like they had power over me. I would hold on to certain little things. I was easy to stir up. If someone said something rude to me, I was easy to rile up. And then I read in the Bible, it says, only a fool is easy to anger. Only a fool, like a mad dog, is easy to stir up. You go and you shake it up like this. But he said a wise person analyzes the person who is shaking you up, the situation that's shaking you up, the place. A wise person looks at it and analyzes it and says, am I being tested? Am I witnessing something from their past? And you have to look at the person. I have somebody who I was with earlier today, and his wife constantly does things to the family. The wife constantly cheats. The wife constantly steals out of his bank account. The wife constantly puts the children aside and doesn't mind the children. And he's constantly hearing things. She's going to clubs, and he is a promoter, and he promotes these clubs and everything, and all of a sudden, there's promoters at other clubs saying, why was your wife at this get-together? Or he gets text messages saying, your wife is here right now with some guy, rubbing them all up on the dance floor and everything. And he gets these things, and he's so much in pain, so now it's not his wife any longer. They're going through a divorce, but he's so painful about it. But you know who's more in pain about it? His growing son.
Yeah.
His growing son, who is 19 years old and doesn't even want to see the mother. When the mother says, oh, can you come to this? He says, shut up, man. Shut up. Stay away from me. Don't even come near me. He talks to her like she's a piece of garbage. And what does that do to him? It makes him even angrier and angrier. And then when the father is nice to the mother, because the mother, he loves the mother, and so when the father does talk to the mother, or the mother's nice, or the mother will go up to the father and be sweet and kind and get on his good side again, the father gives into it, and he'll go right up to them. The two of them, as they're in the kitchen talking or whatever, and he'll say, why are you talking to her? You know she's just a tramp. And he'll like put his mother down like that, and he really comes right out strong. Or when the mother leaves, he will go up to the father and say, you know what, you're not a good influence on me. You want me to get a wife like that one day? You want me to turn around? And this is what he says to her. So now, this is what he says to his dad. So now his dad wants me to talk to his 19-year-old son. And the first thing I'm going to say to the 19-year-old son is, forgive. Let it go. Just don't even allow this person to control your emotions any longer. Just say to yourself, who cares? This person is obviously damaged, and by me holding on to what they did to me, I'm allowing this to damage me. And that's what it does. It's a sick cycle. And, so then we get into conflict. When we get into conflict with this person and what they did, we start to do one of 5 things. There's even more things that we do, but the main things are, we yell. We slander their name. We put them down. We create revenge, a way to get them back. We ignore them. We also do not realize that we have the strongest thing called forgiveness, because some people do forgive. Go ahead.
Ignoring them is, but what happens if it's really like the story that you just told us earlier?
And it's hard to ignore.
No, when Jesus prayed on the slave and all that, and
Yeah.
He didn't ignore them, he just didn't respond the way they
Right,
wanted
he
him
waited.
to.
Yeah, he waited for them to calm down because they were testing him and tempting him to go against Moses. So he didn't go against Moses. He said, go ahead, stone her,
Well,
you're free of sin. Do it, do what Moses said.
saying mean words and all that, you just ignore them still?
If they're saying mean words, and if you can remove yourself from the situation, then do it. But if you cannot remove yourself from the situation, then just put your ears on closed and put your heart on God and just say, God, please help me forgive this person, replenish my mind, replenish my spirit. And you have to keep saying it over and over and over. I forgive them, I forgive them.
What if you come back home and your mother says stuff that you could do but not the right thing to do?
Okay.
No,
Your mother's trying to show you how to defend yourself.
What do you mean?
Like once got in a fight with Cass and Anthony said, oh, you should have said this back to her.
We always do
You do
that.
all.
I do. Oh, okay.
That's a very interesting point. Well, what you do is, that's when you go into quiet counsel with God, because it's God saying to you at that moment that your mom is not giving you the right advice. And sometimes moms will do that. Moms will be like, oh, you should have went up to him and slapped him out. Back in my day, mothers would grab their child by the hand, take them to the park and say, now you beat them right there, right now. And that's what would happen. So if your mom had said something that you know is maybe not the best advice, that's God speaking to your heart. And that means that you have the ability to hear God's small voice within you. And some people live a lifetime just trying to seek that. Some people live a lifetime just trying to get that wisdom. So if you have that wisdom, you have to follow that wisdom. Even it's not disobeying your mom, because you're actually doing something that is more wise. So you obey that small voice within you that says, peace. Make peace. Go ahead.
I'll be quick. Okay, so I'm guessing from what you were saying about forgiveness,
Yeah.
for me, usually I could say it out loud and even not really deal with the person, but the emotion's still there, so I'm not, in my bed at night saying, I can't believe that person did tossing and turning, and it's just still there. So you're saying forgiveness is wholehearted, and once that angst or that anger is removed from it as well, then you've truly forgiven someone?
Yes.
Okay,
And
'cause I
then-
see a difference. Like,
But
I
then
can
you
say-
might remember. You might
you
remember
won't
what
remember
they
with
did,
that
but
hurt.
you won't remember with anger and pain. You will remember with, yeah, that was done to me. Yeah, they did that, but I grew stronger from it.
Mhm.
And it's not that you will appreciate it either, but you'll be like, yeah, that was done to me. And then when someone else comes to you and they're like, You know what happened? You can say, you know what, sweetie, that was done to me as well, and I had to forgive them because it was their ignorance. And I was in church the other day. I was telling you guys a story that I had to forgive the pastor. I was in church, and it's a church that I go to every now and again during my church hopping, phases. And so there was a pastor, and it was once a month this church gives out a cracker and Welch's grape juice. They do it as well at my mom and dad's church too. But at this particular church, what happened was they said, okay, does everyone have their grape juice and their bread, their cracker? And everyone's like, yeah. And he's like, like everyone's ready, they're pumped, they're going to take this bread that represents Jesus' flesh. Because Jesus broke bread at the table and said, this flesh, when after I die, this flesh represents me, and this wine represents my blood. In church, we're not going to drink wine, so they put grape juice. So everyone's like, yeah, I'm ready to eat this flesh, and I'm ready to drink this, Welch's juice, So then all of a sudden the pastor says, okay, wait. Those of you who are not right with God, put down that cracker and don't drink that grape juice because you're not right with God. And I got so worked up. I looked at my friend and I was like, they say it in most churches. They say if you have not given yourself over to Jesus, if you are not right with God, you are not ready to take this.
Wouldn't that be church property?
This is what happened. He said, you are not ready to take this because you have not recognized who Jesus is.
It's not a sin.
Now, this is what it is. Right, but this is what it is. Just about a week before that, I was on my way into my church hopping. And I was on my way into a Catholic church. And my sister called me up, who just recently converted over to Catholicism. And she's like, hi, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just on my way into a Catholic church, Oh, what church are you going to? I said, some Catholic one in the corner. I'm just going to go check it out. And, really? Okay. Make sure you don't take the bread. Make sure you don't take communion. And I said, listen, if I want to take that bread, I'm going to take it. And she was like, yeah, but you can't. It's against the rules. I said, whose rules? The church or Jesus?
Right.
The church or Jesus? Because when Jesus broke that bread,
You're not supposed to.
hold on. When Jesus broke that bread, Jesus said, this represents my flesh. This wine represents my blood. When you drink it and when you eat it, it goes into your body. You are automatically thinking about the power of Jesus. So even if you never believed in Jesus Christ and you are not friends with Jesus Christ, as soon as you take that in, your brain is automatically going to be triggered and you are automatically going to say, so Jesus. Jesus would say, yo, Catholic Church, let this person take communion because you know why? It is okay. I want this person to taste what the flesh is like. I want this person to. Man has changed the Bible to suit their needs, to make people convinced that they have to do their ritualistic ways. And in this church, when so many people put down that wine.
No.
So many people put down that grape juice. I saw it. They put it down. They put it down, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm thinking to myself, who is this pastor who just admitted to cutting someone off on the highway?
No, but he should know what, Cerise. You know what? He should have. I wasn't there, but this is what I'm saying. He should have said it to the church before they even went to take it, because there's a part in that, I think it's Corinthians, where it says if you unworthily eat it, you're only going into condemnation. It's not for me to say that you are not supposed to take it.
I understand.
No, hang on. But you of yourself should know, because I don't take communion, because I don't think I'm living a life worthy. I'm living in sin or whatever.
Well, we all are.
But Jesus never said that when he went to Corinth to visit the Corinthians. Never did Jesus say that. They changed it 300 years after Jesus was born, after Jesus died. The emperor of that time, the king of that time, he changed the Bible. And what I'm saying to you is, if you look at the secrets of the Bible
But hang on too, if you look at it like that too, it's a whole, that's why I don't like debating religion. If you even really look at that supper, it was not really even meant for all of us to take it at the time. He did it with his disciples at the time before he gave
But
his
are
life.
the apostles. But
Yeah.
now, the apostles are the first 12. Anybody after that, 12, is called a disciple. Now, a disciple is who? A person
Follower
who,
of Jesus.
a follower of Jesus. Now, if you are not familiar with Jesus, and your first step to Jesus is by drinking that juice and taking that cracker, Jesus would be happy enough with the fact that you even walked in his building.
And to say,
right?
the dinner was for him, but I know.
But then if Jesus was at the church and he heard that pastor,
He would have stood
he
up.
would step up and he would
Yeah.
say, wait a minute, this person's heart is pure right now. They were just about to come to me. Why don't you just turn them away? Your heart. That's like the two. Hold on. That's like the two people that were praying in the synagogue, and the one pays his taxes, and the one is always praying God, and then you got the tax collector that comes and sits beside him, and so you got the guy that pays his taxes, and he's over here, and he's like, God, I know I'm going to heaven, and I know I'm right with you because I do this and I do that. But this tax collector goes and collects taxes from people and hurts their families and tears them apart. Then you got the tax collector on the other side, and he's like, please God, I'm not even humble enough to come into the kingdom. Please, I'm so sorry for what I've done. And God says, you know what? Jesus says, you know what? It's the one that is humble enough to say they are unworthy that is coming into the kingdom, not the one that says, I'm worthy enough to take this cracker and this wine, but you're not because you don't know Jesus and you're not good with God. So I understand what you're saying, but what you're saying is,
No, I'm not saying that no, I'm not
what you think is the Bible.
No,
You're not even protecting. I know, you're just giving us.
I'm not saying what I think was what the pastor should have said, because then now those people are going to be feel that they're stigmatized in the church. He should say before,
That's why I have a problem with church.
before he should say, well, if you don't feel worthy, don't take it.
Okay,
If you
let's
don't
say he
feel
did
worthy-
that. Let's say he did that. How many people would not take it?
They should not say it at all.
Right, but how many people would say, that's okay, I'm not worthy, just let that pass by
No,
me,"
it's how you
right?
say it because they do it at my church too. I don't take it because I know within my own stuff why I don't take it, but it's all the approach.
Okay,
See, I would want
Hold
to
on,
take it, because I would
I hear
feel
what
Right, I understand, but it
Yeah,
shouldn't,
just-
what I'm saying to you is it shouldn't even be said at all.
I think it shouldn't be said at all.
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
I think
Not
that should be a
even
decision
one
of
person.
between her
And I understand why they say it, because what they're saying to people too is they're doing the brimstone.
Exactly, the
And they're like,
ritual. Some people are
you
taking it
gotta
as
be
a
right with God before you can say you're part of God, right? So,
yeah, and some people think that just by taking communion, it's gonna erase everything. And it's a ritual, as you said, it's just becoming a ritual. You have to be careful.
That's right.
As you-
and there are those people that do
Yeah,
say,
exactly.
oh, if I take this wine and I take this bread, I'm gonna be pure with Jesus and I'm gonna go into the kingdom and I don't have to walk his way or do
A lot of
his
people think
And I
that by being
understand that
baptized as well, though.
Exactly. and so-
Yeah.
A lot of people just go.
And this is what we're saying. So Jesus himself would look at people these days and Jesus would say,
Exactly.
what the heck? What in the world is going on here? All I said was this is going to represent this and this is going to represent, and people are fighting. People, and I understand it. You make a good point, Jen, because you always do that, and I love it. You always play the advocate. That's why every time you do that, I always leave it out there. I never edit it out because people need
why
to.
not?
No, people. I don't say your name, but people need to hear that. People need to hear the two sides because neither side is necessarily right or wrong.
Exactly.
I'm only saying what I feel is fair, and you're saying what the people have been taught.
Exactly.
And this is exactly what people have been taught. And what I'm saying is, we have to back up a little bit. Pastor himself is cutting people off in traffic, and his heart cussing the next person that wouldn't let him in the traffic. And he doesn't even care about the man who's starving on the street because he's too busy taking his money to go to an expensive restaurant. Not saying that all pastors do that, because there are pastors who are very interactive with the people and the missions on the street and everything. But that's the reason why a lot of people in church these days are leaving the church because there's too many rules, there's too many rituals, and there's too much. Right,
Judgment is
and
the
as
main
you were
thing.
saying too,
Makes no
Jen,
sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we have to learn how to forgive. We have to learn how, and that's what I had to do with this pastor. once he did that, I looked at my friend and I said, how dare him? And here I got the bread and the wine, and I'm like, didn't even take it yet. And I'm like, I feel like not even taking it now that he said that. And then I was like, but if I don't take it, I'm going to look like I'm not right with God. Right? And then I'm like, but then if I do take it, I'm dealing with their rituals. And so here I am with this heavy heart. Yeah, this heavy heart, the furthest away from God at that moment because I couldn't even forgive the pastor for what he said. And I'm like, God, here I am, taking myself farther away from you due to this silly little ritual. I said, look, pop that thing in my mouth, drink that wine back. And then as I'm eating it, God says to me, you don't even like crackers and dough and all that stuff. Look at you now, got it on your tongue, and you're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, doesn't even taste good. And then afterwards I looked at my friend, and I was like, this is unnecessary. This is completely unnecessary. And my friend said, do you know how many wars, how many fights come out? And, and this is even how passionate you are, Jen, and Autumn, and Renee, and myself. And how many kids in the room just now, too, are probably thinking to themselves, why are we even eating bread? You know what I'm saying? And this is how we are. As human beings, we love God. We can love God without the bread. If Jesus knew what the bread and the wine was going to do, he would say, yo, just eat it. Right? So this is what I'm saying. And I had to forgive the pastor and forgive the rituals in the church, and I had to do a whole entire mental cleansing in order for me to do the conflict resolution within myself. And then I had to back up and analyze the pastor and why he would say that. He went through a lot of studies. He went through theology school. He put himself through a lot in order to commit himself to the word and the walk and the way of Jesus Christ that half those other people out there who are taking the bread wouldn't even think about doing. So I had to look at him and say to myself, respect. I understand why you hold this bread so gingerly, so gentle to your heart. I give you the respect and I honor what you're doing with it, and I'm trying to understand. So I had to have forgiveness in my heart and do conflict resolution and do exactly like what Jen said. Exactly like what she said. And that was hard for me. But that automatically brought me closer to God when I showed understanding instead of just fighting against it. And it was difficult because I was even like, I'm taking this. The whole hood came out of me at that moment. I will not lie. Have two ways we can manage conflict. Realize a fool becomes offended quickly. Don't be a fool. Do not become offended quickly. 2, overlook insult. Do not allow insult to even penetrate your mind, your heart, any thought. 3, ask yourself what you have done to contribute to the conflict. There's always something we have done to contribute to every conflict if we are within it. 4, reason with the person one-on-one, and if that doesn't work, get intervention. If intervention doesn't work, which sometimes it doesn't, then you just have to say, peace, until that person recognizes that you are letting go of it, and that person will have to let go of it as well. Also 5, solve the conflict with patience. How many times do we actually forgive people who may not even be worthy of our forgiveness at that moment? And we don't work through it. We're like, okay, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm sorry too. But then we walk away and we don't forget it. We're like, yeah, but they really did hurt me. And oh my God, they really... So what we have to do is work through what they did. Again, look at who they are, why they did it, why you're forgiving them. Because
For yourself.
For yourself and for God, to represent God's character. And that's what we have to do. And when we refuse to forgive others, you literally tell God that the gift He gave you is unworthy to use, when it's one of the most powerful gifts you have. Forgiveness, to end, frees the mind from torment and the spirit from sorrow. If we do not forgive, we will hold on to that sorrow, and the spirit, as soon as it remembers it, will feel it like that. So, this is what I'm saying. In forgiveness, we have to realize that we are powerful. And forgiveness does not say we are weak. It says that we are strong.